Hey everyone, I think that's better. Mic's on now. Excellent. How are we all going? Give me 1 second and I'm just going to get my screen ready. Bear with me for 1 second. And let me just double check that we are recording. We are, so this is all recorded. It'll go on our help page. Let me get my screen ready. And I think we've got a few, yeah, a little bit different with the beard. Is that good or bad? Hopefully that's good. Try more wisdom, they say, if you have a beard, something like that. Let me share my screen now. Excellent, excellent. Okay. So I think we've got a few people here, might be a few more that join in, and that's okay. So it's all recorded. It'll go up on our help page, and everyone can have a look at it there as well. So I'm Casey, GP. We're going to do another masterclass tonight for MBS Pro. This one I'm going to focus just on MBS Pro, the actual AI Scribe. We're working on a few other things that we showed off last time, such as our AI receptionist and our document scanner. But tonight we're just going to focus on the AI scribing, and I want to show you a few different things. So a few little tips, tricks, features, things like that. So to get started, I'll show off just a few little modifications we're making to the waiting room. The waiting room is when you integrate with best practice. So let me just show you here. Actually, let me show you here. Excellent. So I'll show you this in another in a minute. This is just an example care plan, but the waiting room sits in here. You get access to the waiting room when you integrate with best practice. The way that you integrate is when you go to settings, and then you go BP integration, and then you put in your details and it integrates. There's a few cool things that it shows. So waiting room, which I'll show you in a second, and dashboards. Dashboards has a lot of analytics and things like that. Now we're making a few slight changes to the waiting room. Nothing major, but just giving you a better idea of total billing opportunities and estimated time based on previous appointment times with those specific patients. So your waiting room won't look like this just yet, hopefully in the next about a week. So we do rolling updates usually every 2 weeks. Some of the updates are minor and you might not notice a whole lot, hopefully just a bit of stability, accuracy, things like that. Sometimes the big ones like the user interface change and everything looking a bit newer. This will just be a minor change. Essentially what we're saying or what we're showing is that if you have a patient, so this is like one example patient, we'll show the total billing opportunities. So all the item numbers that are available to be billed for that patient. So for example, 900, 700 item numbers, care plans, mental health care plans, so on and so forth, that are relevant. So if a patient is coming in with pregnancy and they've filled out their pre-consult, that will be an item that is shown. But if they've come in with pregnancy, but they've said I'm coming in for my diabetes check, it won't show the pregnancy item number because the pregnancy item number is not one that we track. We track all the chronic disease item numbers. So your 700 item numbers, your 900 medication reviews, 699, 695 care plans, things like 16500, skin biopsies. You can do those a million times. So we don't track those. We just track the chronic disease ones. So for this particular patient with their billing opportunities, that would be made up of the 700, 900, 695. So these are the things that are available for this patient. And then with this one single patient, we can see that their estimated total appointment time is about 20 minutes. That's how long they've spent the previous couple of appointments. So what we do is we get the average of their last appointments and then just display that to you. Easy to see with one patient, of course, one patient, 20 minutes. That sounds about right. If you've got lots of patients, what we do is we sum the values. So you can see here that with a waiting room of 23 patients, you have your billing opportunities, which we've now got the hide. So I thought I'd just demonstrate that. You can hide the item numbers in terms of the dollar value. So a few people requested that. So if patients are looking at it, they're not saying, oh, you're going to bill $10,000 worth of things. So you can hide that. That's fine. We've got your estimated total appointment time. We're going to modify that slightly still. So this is how long we're estimating you will take with those 23 patients. based on how long you've taken before. There's a few things that can interfere with that. So, for example, if you've left your chart open for 20 minutes longer than the actual appointment went, the idea is that it does get average. So, for all the times that you've left it open, hopefully there's more times that you pretty much closed it when you finished, maybe a couple of minutes, but pretty much closed it on time. If you leave every single chart open for hours, this appointment time it'll be blown out by a long shot. So we're working on making that a bit more accurate. But this is 23 patients, 6 hour day. That's sort of pretty standard type day. The patients that we've flagged that are probably going to go overtime have this little red sort of warning sign on their time. You'll notice that not all patients have that. So if you hover over it, it'll pop up with how long it thinks you'll take for that appointment. So some of them will be, 10 minutes because they're, usual quick standard, average patients. And then some of them will say, half an hour is your average, even though they book in for 20 minutes, which is fantastic. So the idea is that we're giving you a bit of a warning. Now, we've just slightly updated the user interface in terms of item numbers that are available to be billed based on what's been billed previously, or their pre-consult, etc., or demographics, if they're CBC, DVA patients for CBC program, Indigenous patients, so on and so forth. We've updated it slightly, so the user interface will just give you an idea of what is due when. So this patient's got 4 more 10997s that are available for the calendar year. This patient is due for a 700 number in 7 months. One thing we've still got to update is the 2712. Obviously, that's not available anymore. And then care plans, health assessment, and so on and so forth. It should have timers on most of those things if you've built them. If you've never built them before, for example, this patient's never had a 699, there won't be any timer because they've never had one. So we're just experimenting with that, making it a bit clearer. This little document button here in the middle, that is the consent. So when the patient gets sent a pre-consult, they will be consented to using the AI, which will make it a lot easier for you. And that'll be put into the chart. So it's just they've consented to it, and it's way easier. So that's a good thing. Hopefully make it a lot easier for everyone. So that's the waiting room. We're just updating it to make it more user-friendly and also just more useful. That's part of the BP integration. So if you're interested in the BP integration, we're doing a 2-month promo where you can integrate for free and give it a try for 2 months and see how you like it. There's also dashboards, which I've gone over. I'm not going to go over that today. We've gone over it in a previous video, but essentially the dashboards will show you what your billing sort of like. Let me just see if I can, maybe I'll just quickly show over it. Have been off for 2 weeks, so I don't know if I've got any billings actually in there. I've been on holidays. That's okay. I've got another video on it. So it's just like your revenue per hour. Oh, here you go. So it just looks like this. So, but with I haven't been working for a little while, but with your billings, let me just see if I can quickly do this. It should pull up a few billings, your revenue per hour, revenue per console, and a few things like that. Now, one of the things that I did want to talk about while this is loading, which is relevant, there have been noted some like speed issues with the waiting room and the dashboard. What happens is the way that we connect to best practices through this thing called Halo Connect. Now, every single partner now has to connect through Halo. So we've noticed some speed issues, as you can see right here. One of the things that can help is doing a manual resync, so you can sync that yourself. But essentially what it does is it pulls a lot of data from your best practice via Halo Connect. And the data that it's pulling you wouldn't think it would be a lot because it's just, ones and zeros, right? But it's a lot of data. So there can be some, sort of speed issues. You'll notice when you're first integrating, it will take 2 to 3 minutes minimum, I would say, probably even 5 minutes to sync your waiting room and to sync it so it looks like this with all the colors and notifying when your item numbers are due. It's just sort of the way the Halo Connect sort of works. But in your dashboards, you'll have your revenue per hour, revenue per day, etc. You'll have your daily billing list. So your patients for that day will be there plus what has been billed, so you can check it at the end of the day. That's always good practice, I think. Your billing status management. This is only relevant if you have things that get rejected or put on hold. For example, you do skins or you've built some item numbers and they get rejected, it'll show up here. For the most part, it doesn't show a lot of things, and that's good though. If it shows something in here, it just means there may be an issue with it. If there's things that are pending, that just means they haven't been put through to Medicare yet, which is fine. So the main thing that you want to look at is on hold and rejected and just make sure those things are going through. And then your CDM billing, so how many care plans, medication reviews, things like that. So it's to give you information about, how it works, how your billings work and, hopefully help with the way that you're going. So that gives you an idea. So that's the BP integration side of thing. Now I want to show you a couple of other things, which I've got here on my screen. Yes, here, just with our summary and care plan. So we've just updated our summaries to be a bit more, I guess you'd say medication, not medication, GP or medico friendly. And this is part of our ongoing updates that we're doing with our accuracy, our transcriptions, and our personalizations. They're not quite yet personalizations, but they're coming. So, for example, you notice a lot more, I guess, medical terminology. So things like, OD. We're notifying if a medication is new in the record. So when you say, let's start on this medication, or sort of put in your note as new or continuing, or cease. So just to make it a bit more recognizable. You'll see here management of type 2 diabetes, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, as opposed to type 2 diabetes, the whole big word. Now, we're going to be introducing personalization, which will make it a bit easier. Again, and here's another one. So, booked for 3 months for free peak bloods, just to make it a bit more, succinct. With the personalizations, the way that will work is it will be very specific to you as the individual. So, for example, this is your note, and you read it and you go, hang on, it's got type 2 diabetes here, but it's got T2DM here. I'm going to change this. And you might put in here, you might get rid of it and put type 2 diabetes. And then the personalizations will remember that. So see how it said consult note updated. It'll remember what you've typed in, and it'll say, every single time we write type 2 diabetes, I'm going to put that in because that's how you like it to be personalized. You might also like, for example, hypertension to be HTN. You might call a diabetic educator a DE, whatever, and it'll remember that and then write it exactly like that based on all of your notes. So it's not learning from patients, it's learning from your edits. So it'll apply those edits in the future and make it like really, really accurate. So it's a super cool thing. So this is what the notes look like. This is just a dummy patient that I've done. Hopefully it's a bit more, user-friendly, a bit better. The other thing that we've done is we've updated our care plans. Or before I get on our care plans, I did want to show you one thing. So down the bottom here, there's a few sort of cool things, I think. There is our MBS splits, which will split your note based on timestamps. We're constantly looking at that one to make it a bit better. It's a tricky one. It's one that we've been at for a while. What it does is it looks at the transcript. So the patient has talked about, their sugars, and then they've talked about their, pregnancy, and they've talked about their sugars again. So if those things are unrelated, you could bill, say, a 23 and a 16,500. And what it does is it looks at the transcript and then estimates the time associated with each individual thing that you did, and then splits it up with time. So it's a constantly evolving thing because it's got, it's a hard thing to get really accurate. So we're working on that. The other thing that we've got here is reformat. So you can change it into a different note. So if you've got your own type of notes, or if you want to turn it into like a problem list. So if we do that and we'll generate the summary, it'll put it as summary 2 and generate it in problem list format, which is possibly similar to what we sort of did before anyway. But if you like it in a different format, that's what it does. So I'll go back to the original summary. We've also got this, it says reformat summary, but that actually should say magic edit or smart edit. Essentially, if you want to edit it in a certain way. So if, say, for example, you talked about, pregnancy and diabetes, but for some reason the note didn't pick up that you talked about diabetes, as in it didn't write a very big note. You could say, please put the, well, don't say please, I just say please, just in case the machines sort of take over. It'll remember me being polite. Please put the diabetes section, last, or, if you want to say, please expand the note, or whatever you want to say, it'll edit it and sort of, do whatever you've said to do. I don't use it a whole lot, but if something is missing, it'll put it in. So that's another thing that you can do. Now, email, so you can email it to your patient. If you wanted to, for example, you could create a patient summary, and this might be something that you email to your patient, and a summary of the note, summary of your consult, and a summary of what's going on. Now, handy little trick, if you want to copy the note, you can click copy, of course, or you can just double click on the screen and it copies the whole note. And then going to new, you can go Alt-N. So there are hotkeys, so Alt-N to new, Alt-S to start consult, Alt-S to stop. that's really handy, especially if you're using our overlay mode, which I'll show you in a second as well. Now, the other thing that we've updated is our care plans. So with the care plan generator, which you access via the create button, so go create care plan, it'll analyze the note and look for any medical things that it thinks are chronic. Obviously, you want to do a care plan for things like type 2 diabetes and not necessarily for, pregnancy or fractured toes and things like that. It's, a chronic condition. So you can put in your, tick what you want it to be about. That's what I've done for this. We've updated the SMART goals to be a bit more smarter, I guess you say, so SMART, and just making it a bit more explicit about the things that we are doing under each, sort of like condition or the specific things that we're making the goals for, just to be a bit more, I guess, explicit. I know that sort of sounds funny. And then we put in here, patient consent to care plan, offered copy, and we've got our dates and reviews up here. So meeting all the Medicare criteria. So with the new GP CCMPs, they are just chronic conditions, not really chronic diseases. So if you have a patient that has had back pain for 6 months, you're not totally sure what the cause of the back pain is, that's okay. It's explicitly in the MBS criteria that you can do a care plan for this patient, and clearly this patient would benefit from, physio, maybe even dietitian or something like that if weight's an issue, because that's going to get them, functional, back to work, doing the things that they enjoy, which is better for all of us and society in general, than sort of, thinking, oh, can I do a care plan? Can I not? You can absolutely do a care plan, get them the physio, dietitian, get them back to it. So that's what they're designed for. So this makes it a little bit more explicit, hopefully a bit easier. You've got your task for your patient GP, and then I'd refer this person off to diabetic educator. We've also got this handy little infographic. So you click on that and it'll create an infographic, which has sort of like nice pictures and things like that. This doesn't really copy and paste into best practice all that well. You can do it. So you should be able to see my screen now. This is me, handy me. If you wanted to copy and paste this into your note, you can copy and paste it like this, funnily enough. I don't know if you'd want to do that. Probably not. So I'm going to get rid of it. But you could do it. But otherwise, you would just copy and paste your note like this. And it would look like that. And that would be fine. That's something I would build a care plan for. This is our second summary we did. This was the patient summary, which talked about the different specific things that we're going through. So that's the care plan. Patient infographic, different summaries. We've still got the MBS planner. We're adding in more codes. So we've got 100 plus codes. We're adding in non-VR codes and aged care codes to make those a bit easier. We've also updated our ARCS MBS chatbot, so it should be a bit smarter. Sometimes it doesn't give quite the correct answer, so it's been updated. So hopefully it's better. So give that one a go. We've still got our pro to check, of course. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you is PBS authorities. So this is where it lives. This is our co-pilot. This right-hand side is our co-pilot. And let me show you what our overlay screen looks like, just to show you. What am I doing? Here it is. So it's called a companion window or overlay window. It should be available pretty much. Let me try that one again. So you go right click, open in companion window. There you go. Maybe I didn't right click hard enough. And what it does is it just puts it here. So when you're in best practice, you can still navigate around and look at your investigations, look at the things that have been done, so on and so forth. Now, the thing that I wanted to show you within the PBS authorities was how it works. Two, we realized that there wasn't an override code. So if you've given an authority script and then a patient comes in a week later because they've lost it, we didn't have that ability to override it. So let me log in. So you just log in like normal. It will stay logged in for, oops, I know what the issue is. This is my testing one. Let me try that again. Here we are. So PBS authorities does not work in our test environment. It only works in the real environment. So connect it to Proto. It's already connected because it stays logged on for a week. Now I'm going to give myself good old Nexium again. So you put in your authority script. Now, if you've got integration, all of this pre-fills, which is really, really handy. Things that don't pre-fill, 29761. Is authority script number. Prescriber number will stay in there, and Medicare number will be pre-filled. I haven't integrated with this particular account, but if you integrate it, it does make it a lot quicker. But you'll still need to search your item. So Nexium 40. Now we've updated the search to be a bit smarter and a bit easier to use. There was a little bug with the scrolling, but we think we've fixed that now, but let us know. And I'll answer a few questions after we do this one as well. Remember, we've always got questions. So we put in our good old Nexium. Hopefully the government doesn't pick up that I prescribe myself Nexium like a lot. Now I'm going to submit this authority. It should decline because I've already done it. So it'll say it's failed. Let's do an override. So we'll say it's inaccessible and it will say it's lost. Resubmit. And now we have an authority code. So we can copy and paste that into there and save it and print it and whatever. So you can see that that's significantly quicker, even doing a resubmit than doing it through Proda, which is great. So that's how the PBS authority works. It should be able to do, let's go back. It should be able to do any medication that you can do on Proda. One of the questions that came up was, what about Reandrin? So Reandrin, as in like once every 3 months testosterone injection. Let me go clear all. So Reandrin. So it's usually once, not once a day, right? It's usually once 3 monthly. So one of the things that you can do is you can go, one as required or even just 1 monthly, and it should still give you the correct, it should still give you the authority script, but we're going to update that to put in 3 months. But you can answer all your questions, who was the specialist that provided it, what's the specific reason you're giving it. Same as any of the, sort of ADHD medications, it should still give you the appropriate restriction codes, so on and so forth, and questions. So let me answer a few questions while we're here as well, because I know we've probably got a few. Excellent. So yeah, the value of the BP integration, mostly in the context of pre-filling your Proda checks, your PBS authorities, and dashboards and waiting room. So we charge $15 a month, so it's pretty cheap. We don't have a tight integration like, for example, Lyrebird does. Lyrebird has the ability to do a bit more. Unfortunately, we don't have that. It's like a business decision from on sort of best practice behalf. We're hoping to get access to more clinical data. We've put in a request for that, so hopefully that'll come through. So we'll see how we go. But yeah, it's an extra $15 per month. The reason why it's an extra is because we've got to pay best practice. They charge us, so we sort of just put it on. So see how we go. Yes, a few good things about the care plans. Excellent. Thank you for all the feedback that everyone's giving about care plans. We're hopefully getting them better. So for companion window, do you need to be integrated? Don't need to be integrated for this little companion window. It's actually just a little add-on that you can get from the Google store. So let me just get out of this. So if you go to Chrome Web Store, there's companion window. That's one of them. The other one is just our one. So we have one called MBS Pro, one word, which you can utilize. And it looks like this. So you can utilize it as a sidebar. Whoops, that's my emails. Utilize it as a sidebar, or if we get out of it and click here again, we can utilize it as an overlay. And that works well. So that's the one that we've got. Otherwise, companion window, either or is perfectly fine. Don't need to be integrated. My prescriber number was not showing up in this new format of PBS authorities. I know anyway, but the previous format, it did put it in. It did. Good thought, because it hasn't done that for me. So I'm going to feed that back to developers, because it should just stay in there. So for a care plan, is that output enough? And you would just copy and paste it into empty document and print. I just copy and paste it into my notes. So I just put it in like here. And you can print it from here anyway. So Control P and it'll print it out. Otherwise, you could, for example, if we go back to it here, you could like just email that straight to the patient, and that's good. Remember, you just have to offer it to the patient. If the patient declines, that's fine. Truthfully, for me, I find that patients like having a new care plan, as in the first time you've done it. I think that, they look at it and sort of, have a think about it. But reviews, they're not as interested in. That's what I find. But everyone's different, and that's fine. So, whoops, not that. I didn't mean to click that. And yeah, so reviews, I find my patients aren't as interested in reviews, but reviews are essentially, if you look at the MBS criteria, essentially just looking at the goals that you've already set. So let's go back to our care plan, right, and just have a little look. So this is our fake patient, right? We've said, you got diabetes, they're not crash hot. We want you to, start your metformin. We're going to review that in 3 months with your bloods. We're going to lose 5 kilos of weight. We're going to make some lifestyle changes. We're going to do a daily walk for 2 kilometers. Review that in 3 months. We're going to start you on some blood pressure medication. Review that in 3 months. Your blood pressure was, what did I say in the summary? 160 on 80. So essentially the review is, have you done those things? So for a review for this patient, I would say, what are your sugars? So, we'll do the blood test. What are your sugars? Are they good, bad, the same? What is your weight? Is it at the 100 kilos? And is your blood pressure? I mean, with this blood pressure, to make it a better care plan, I know it says blood pressure to be reassessed. You'd put in there, what is the actual outcome. So we want to aim less than 140. So I'd say, is your blood pressure? So I take the blood pressure, is it less than 140? Yes or no? Have you lost 5 kilos? Yes or no? Is your sugars better? So this one, to even be a little bit better, it should be, sugars of, I think I said it was 8.1 in the original. So let's say less than 7.5, right? So essentially the review is it just, have you met those goals? Yes, yes, no, or whatever. So the review would be a review of goals, still, hasn't lost 5 kilos, hasn't got blood pressure below 140, hasn't got their sugars below 7.5, or maybe they have, like whatever it is. And then what are you going to do from then? So they haven't met their goals, therefore increase their metformin, add on the Ozempic, whatever. Change the goal. So if their goal was to lose 5 kilos and they only lost 1, the new goal might be lose 2 kilos instead of 5 kilos. So that might be more approachable. So it's just like an ongoing 3-monthly thing. So that's what I do with my patients. I call it a sprint. I know it sounds funny, but it's what we do when we're actually developing. We do sprints. So sprints are, they're usually 6 to 8 weeks sort of cycles. So you'll have a goal in that 6 weeks in terms of software development. So in terms of care plans, it's like a goal of 3 months. Let's do that one thing. So, truthfully, I'd probably just have one goal with this, and it might actually just be the weight. Because if we lost the weight, you'll probably find that blood pressure and sugars are going to come down anyway. So I might even just have one goal, weight reduction. And I still start them on there, metformin and the Remipril, and talk about that. But I just say, look, the one thing I want you to do is to do a bit more walking. You want to lose 5 kilos. And then we'll come back in 3 months and just review that one thing. So I think it's easier for the patients because it's just the one thing for them to concentrate on. So that's the way that I do mine. And then it's easier for them to concentrate, easier for me because it's just like the one thing that the patient's got to do, the one thing that we're talking about. I try and talk about their immunizations and this and that and everything else that they need, but just the one thing that we're sort of focusing on, at least for this 3 months. Next 3 months, we can go, okay, you've lost 5 kilos of weight. You're in a healthy weight range now, maybe. What are your sugars doing? What is everything else doing? They're probably better anyway. But if not, what can we do to get your sugars a bit lower? So that's your medications. Or what can we do to get your exercise up? Even if your sugars are okay, we still want to be doing exercise and immunizations and blah, blah, blah. So that's sort of the way around it. Hopefully that makes sense. The other thing that I should show you, along with the care plans, we do have our care plan tab in the clinical copilot. Care plan and resources will be updating over the next couple of weeks to a couple of months. So we're adding in a sort of an evidence-based medicine module. So what it does is it looks at a lot of guidelines and gives you more of a chat-based, question-based response. But in our care plan cycle, we've still got our SMART goals. So this will give you additional SMART goals in that SMART format. So if you don't like the ones that we've given you, you can have a look through here. This might be more relevant for your nurses. So you can see in this one actually I do like a bit better because it's getting our sugars down to 7.5, like it specifically said that. So, that's something you can look at. Cycle of care essentially is based off Queensland Health Guideline, actually. So Queensland Health Guideline has these things called cycle of care. So if someone's got diabetes, what are the specific things that you're doing at each visit? Your nurses might look at this, or you might like it. So just as a checklist of the things that we can do. Now, with our BP integration, we don't have a deep integration, so we can't see if a blood test has been done. But you can see, if we could see if a blood test has been done, we could provide you that checklist and say, okay, these are the things that have been done this year as per the cycles of care. These are the things that need to be done. So you need to go see the optometrist. You need to see the podiatrist. We need to do your cardiovascular health check. We need to do your ECG, spirometry, so on and so forth. We're working on a deep integration with another large provider, PMS, and we think we'll be able to do this, which will be, really handy. But anyway, that gives you an idea we're always looking at improving and making these things better. Now, we've still got resources here. So if patients want to know about, blood cholesterol, high blood pressure, or you've got some guidelines you want to look at, you can still look at it here. We do link in with ETG, but you do need to have your own subscription. So the subscription isn't included in our subscription. But if you've got a sub, you can click on here and it'll show you the diabetes page for your ETG when you log on. So it searches it and finds the exact page for you. Otherwise, let me answer a few more questions. So if it's integrated, would it remember previous SMART goals? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't remember previous SMART goals. That's a good thought. Now we are adding into here. So this is your consult. So this is where I would. So if say these were my previous SMART goals here, what I would do is when I do my new care plan, I put in my SMART goals here. And then when I go to create, I go create care plan 967 review. And then I'll write in here, previous SMART goals. So anything you put in this context box there is taken into context. Now we're updating it so that it'll have additional areas for, say, like previous care plan. So it'll have additional boxes. So it'll have today's consult, previous consult, previous care plan. So you can type in, today BP is 140, 140 on 80. Previous consult, blood pressure was, 180 on 80, so that you're doing well. And then your previous care plan was, the, SMART goal to get BP down, etc. A little thing I should show everyone there, this slash that keeps coming up, that's macros. So if you want a macro, say for a 12-month baby check, you can press slash 12-month baby check and it'll give you like a little autofill. Or if you want one for like headaches, it'll give you like a headache one. So just to give you an idea. So anything that gets put into this context box is summarized into your note. So yeah, that's how I sort of do my care plans. We don't have the ability to look at your previous care plan on best practice. Hopefully one day we will, but not yet. Do you have resources for menopause? Oh, do we? Menopause. So you can do a manual search as well. So if something doesn't come up, so we do an AI search based on your consult. So if you're talking about menopause, it'll come up. But sometimes you talk about headaches and you go, oh yeah, it's probably from your menopause. And then, it's just got resources about headaches, but you might actually want to look up menopause. So it's all Gene Hales. That's where most of our resources, patient information sheets, etc., are from. So menopause and sex. Awesome. So got that one there. Any other questions? Actually, yeah, prefer keeping it separate from BP because the deep integration kept crashing. Yes, and that's sort of a thing, deep, integration crashing. Yeah. Can you create your own macros? You absolutely can. So if you go down to templates, macros, you can go add new, and you want to call it test, and then you type in whatever you want, and you go show in the menu. When you go to your consult, so let's go, I'll show you. So go submit and then go current consult. If we go /test, it'll show. It just takes a second to load. I'll refresh it. I don't want to refresh it actually because I want to show people these things. But if you do that, it'll work. It takes this, you have to refresh it, but you can add it through there and whatever your name is the name of the macro. So that'll work. Can you add your own resources? Not yet. We're going to add that in because that would be handy to add your own. What are the main perks of integration? So the main perk of integration is the waiting room, which looks exactly like this, which shows you previous billing history, total billing opportunities. It estimates your time. So if you're going to finish late that day, based on your previous consults, it also provides some analytics around, which I'll show you in my dashboard. Some analytics around total daily billings, revenue per consult, and things like that. So it gives you a little bit of information, analytic data about those things. Yeah. So that's sort of the main thing. Yeah. And then previous consults. Oh, I should show you this thing. So this is where your previous consults live. You can change how long you keep your consults for. So if you want to keep them for 1 day or 3 days or 7 days, by default, we don't store and we delete it. But if you want to keep it longer, you can as well. So I think that's all the questions. We've done pretty well. Thanks everyone for being here and listening. Hopefully that makes sense. But we do these masterclasses every month. We did this one a little bit early because Christmas, New Year. No one wants to come to a masterclass on New Year's Eve. So we did it today. But we'll do another one in January. We'll have some more updates then. If there's any issues, feel free to reach out, send me an email. Otherwise, one thing I will show you before we go is our help. So if you need to chat to us, you can click help and you can go messages and emails me and the team. There's a few of us, and you can send us a message, and we'll try and troubleshoot and figure something out. So that's awesome. The other thing, so a couple of things. So one, we've got a 2 months BP integration for free. So if you're interested in that, send me a message. Essentially, just sign up, send me a message, and we'll refund you. The other thing is we're working on some really cool updates, which we'll share shortly, especially if you're an MD user. So that's a new thing that we're working on. But otherwise, thank you very much for your time. This is all recorded, so it'll go up online. Appreciate it, and you have a good rest of your night. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.